Here we are. Yay, we're live. Hey, yay, yay, yay. Welcome, welcome everybody to the universe and me. I am your host, Miss Jaleisha J. If you do not know me, this is your first time watching or the first time listening. I am an inspirational speaker, spiritual teacher, and a self-love coach. And I help you challenge your limited beliefs so that you can align and manifest the life that you desire. And I help you do this by giving you tools and resources to open up your heart space so you can live a more authentic life. And so on this podcast, we love to talk about all things about self-development, growing, healing, self-love, astrology, anything that's going to help us grow and evolve. And so on this episode, I'm so excited because I love talking about relationships, even though I'm single. I love talking about relationships and partnerships and how we can evolve and grow in our own partnership dynamics. So we have therapist here, Miss Vernessa Roberts-Govan. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yay! Yeah, I'm so glad that you're here. And this episode is called Conscious Coupling Through Therapy. So this is going to be just about evolving through conscious, I guess, therapy, communication, everything. But can you just let everyone know who you are, what you do, and yeah, just brag on yourself.
Yeah. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I am in Sacramento, California, and so I have a private practice down here. I teach part-time also at a university, and I have also tapped into a little bit of the coaching too, just to kind of broaden the horizons with the people that we can reach. And I'm really big on areas such as like shame, self-worth, and then you mentioned it, authenticity. And so I love the work that you're doing on your platform and very much aligns with my work around authenticity also.
Awesome. Okay. And you said you do you're a professor as well. You teach at a
Uh-huh.
school.
I'll teach part-time. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
It's a
Okay,
good balance. It's a good balance. So the
that's an
therapy can be a
amazing.
lot. So
Yeah, yes, that's a lot to do it, but for you to show up in that capacity, oh my goodness, thank you. I'm just gonna give you flowers.
silly.
Thank you
Oh,
for showing up in this capacity.
of
So let me
course.
ask you, as far as how long have you been a therapist and in your profession, what you've been doing?
Yeah, so I've been doing this about 10 years now. Yeah, it's 23, so a little over 10 years, but yeah, about 10 years.
Okay. And you see a lot of different couples, a lot of different types of people come flow to you. I would
Yes.
assume.
Yeah, so I'll see a lot of couples, but I still see a decent amount of individuals. It's maybe like could be like 50-50, give or take. There's a lot of ebbs and flows, but yeah, so a lot of individuals also, a
Mhm.
diversity of issues, more women than men. I actually have a great deal of men within my practice, but a lot of my work is geared kind of towards women, and specifically women of color also, and just helping them navigate specific struggles and obstacles that we face.
Yes, I love that. I love that. First of all, that men are coming to therapy. They're
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, yeah.
because I feel is this, and I'm going to ask because I know you're in California. Is it black men or is it diverse or is it more so it could like is it a broad diverse
Mhm.
selection of men?
Yeah, yeah. It is pretty broad actually. Yeah, for my specific clientele, it is pretty broad with the diversity. And it does seem like, I mean, particularly for black men, because I mean, we know just within the black community, there's a lot of stigma, taboo around therapy. It just didn't exist for a lot.
Correct.
And so I feel for black men, it is kind of expanding with a lot of the connections that I have and the people I see reaching out for therapy. And so, so I have some black men, but I think a lot of black men are, and I can't speak for all, but what I've seen is a lot of black men are resonating with finding black male therapists, which is why our black male therapists are so important. And I'm so glad that that's expanded also.
I'm so happy. I'm so happy it has expanded as well because
Mhm.
they need it. And
Mhm.
I'm really happy to see, especially on social media. I don't know if it's out there in the real world per se, but I do see on social media on certain platforms, they are like promoting, at least men are,
Mhm.
going to talk to someone, going to see
Mhm.
someone, getting
Mhm.
help. It's becoming it's becoming more of a let's remove the taboo
Mhm.
about mental health for men. So I
Mhm.
love to see that. Yes.
Definitely.
Let me ask you though, Vanessa. As far as the clients, if we're dealing with couples,
Mhm.
what would you say would be probably like maybe one of the top two issues that you see the couples come to you for?
Yeah. So, like, I'm sure we probably all know, but communication's like the main reason, right? Anytime I do a
Mhm.
consult, oh, we're having communication issues. And so I always say, though, that's so broad, right? It's like, what does that specifically look like? And so when I'm working with couples, I'll really have to get an idea of like, what's the communication look like for you two and where are some of the breakdowns. But yeah, communication is like a top one in all realms. And then I think maybe the next, so there's a couple. So I'll do some premarital work. And so premarital can be pretty popular, just people coming in and wanting to either just get a review, an overview of some things, or diving into some things. So premarital can be common. And then infidelity actually comes up a lot, unfortunately. And so that's one that's been pretty popular, and a lot of couples will come in trying to get some repair, which is a positive thing because it's a huge relational wound. All trust is gone. And so to even want to attempt to repair that in couples therapy, that's a huge step. But that's a lot of deep and heavy work when it comes to some of that infidelity work. So,
Oh yeah, I already know that. That's a lot. It's a lot.
uh-huh.
It's a lot to unpack, and it's a lot to dig through, and then just going through the process of healing, of
hmm
regaining the trust, of implementing new ways of being with each other. Oh my
hmm
goodness, I
hmm
can only imagine. I have not been in a situation, but I don't even want to know what that's like. But I want to touch on as far as communication because I think that's huge.
hmm
I truly believe it's huge, and I'm gonna say that in my past relationships, one thing I think I kind of was not privy to was opening up and expressing myself and being okay with owning, my feelings and if something didn't gel with me, I didn't speak up. I was a people pleaser. I had codependency issues, and so I just did whatever I thought my partner wanted or the guy wanted,
hmm
and that was a disservice to me in the long
hmm
run because I really had a lot of resentment towards the guy. I really was disassociated from my truth. I really wasn't showing up as in my truth. I wasn't showing up as who I am. And when the relationship ended, I kind of lost sight of who I was. And so I
hmm
had to go through this whole like healing journey on my own to discover my own voice. And so
hmm
I wonder in your dynamic, is it when it's communication, is it more so that they're not able to communicate to each other, or is it more so someone could be withholding their truth, they can be passive, like what is the dynamics that you see?
hmm Yeah, it can be a combination of that. I think kind of what a lot of that boils down to is we just aren't having open and honest conversations within our relationships, and you would think that's the norm, right? You're with this person, they should be the closest person to you. But I've seen in the work that I do that being able to just be open and honest, express some of those needs, express some of our desires, express some of those feelings, it's very difficult for individuals to do within the relationship context. And so I'll see a lot of people coming in almost just to have like uncomfortable conversations, right? Because they feel
Oh,
like, oh, we can't have these conversations at home, right? It's uncomfortable. I don't know how to express myself. I'm scared of how my partner's going to react, right? And so they'll come in, and that's a benefit of the couples therapy, right? It is
yes.
kind of this safe space. It's a contained space for you to be able to discuss some of these things. And so some people find that easier to come in to a space, which it's interesting when you think about it, right? And so you talk about not expressing our needs, not sharing our truth. And so rather than being able to express those important things privately, right, people are willing to come to pretty much a stranger. I'm a stranger to people when they first meet me, but you're willing to come to me to then share some of your feelings and share your truth. right? But that just speaks to the volumes of how difficult it is for individuals to really sit together and communicate around these important topics.
Yeah. That's amazing to me. Sometimes you have to go to therapy just so you can have a uncomfortable conversation.
Mhm. Mhm.
Well, let me ask you, what would you say if someone was having issues with speaking up or communicating with their partner? What would be some an advice or a tool that they could use to start being able to, you know, to be honest, to be
Mhm.
forthcoming?
Mhm. Yeah. So, and this may be a longer example, but I'll have couples, and sometimes I'll have my individuals do this too. We'll always start with kind of making a list of like our wants and needs, because this comes up a lot for relationships. And so, the wants we'll maybe discuss a little, it's important, but I always say the wants are like, it's desires, right? It's nice for our partners to know what some of our desires are, but it shouldn't be like deal breaker type things, right? But the needs is what we really try to hone in on, because the needs are going to get to the foundation of what's important for me, not just within this relationship, but even thinking about like when I envisioned a long term partnership with someone, what were my needs? Okay.
Mhm.
And then we'll kind of compare those lists. And that's a really a beginning point of someone being able to express some of those needs, right? You're simply just going off a list of like, support, validation, appreciation, trust, whatever those like core foundational needs. It's difficult for 100% of our needs to be met, okay? Because none of us are perfect in meeting our partner's needs, but a good amount should be met because those are the core foundational things that are most important. And so, starting with that list, it's a little easier, right, to put things in list form. And then in therapy, they bring their list to the next session, and then I can kind of help them elaborate on some of those needs. Okay, your need is unconditional support. Like, okay, well, what's that currently looking like in this relationship? Okay, express to your partner what they're doing when you're not receiving that. Okay, and now express the times where you do feel that so your partner knows what it looks like, right? And so each one we can kind of expand on some. So that's a long answer, but but it's almost a quicker route, right? If you can first put it in the list form first, but that can be tricky because a lot of people actually don't know what some of their needs are. So
Correct.
that can be a whole other topic.
No, no, you hit on the nail with that because sometimes we don't even know. Like, majority of us, we don't even really know what we actually need in a relationship or in a partnership or what we're needing from another person. So we're not able to just vocalize that.
Mhm.
And then I've been in therapy, so then you have to, and also because I'm a coach, you have to get to the actual meat of what they actually need. And
Mhm.
once you know that, then you can be able to stem off of what they actually are needing from their partner or what they're
Mhm.
needing to convey. So yeah, that's a whole other thing because a lot of people don't know what they actually need. I think
Mhm.
sometimes we can say, and I've been in a situation where I can say I need more affection, but then really what it comes to is that I need intimacy or I need
Mhm.
I need to have more of the closeness, the love.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a need for intimacy. So
Mhm.
affection, you could think, oh, just give me a kiss. No, I need you. I need the closeness. I need the
Mhm.
conversations. So
Mhm.
yeah, that I agree. You're absolutely right, Vernessa. Well, let me ask you as well. So just piggybacking, because I know you also deal with single women or single men and whatnot. Do you think? Because I've seen through coaching is that for I'm gonna use men and I'll use women. I see that with the dynamic with men and women, I feel that there is this barrier of either men not feeling comfortable to express themselves fully, of owning their truth or whatever
Mhm.
that looks like. And then I also see on the other end there are some women who are not receptive to a man's truth or not able to hold space to
Mhm.
allow a man to be vulnerable, allow a man to be, to own up to whatever it is, emotionally
Mhm.
vulnerable without pushback,
Mhm.
without creating a space where they don't feel safe. Have
Mhm.
you seen that dynamic as well?
Yeah, to some extent. The first thing that popped in my head as you're describing that too, because I guess it can kind of go both ways. But definitely
Mhm.
for men, trying to have that vulnerability, expressing those things. But I always relate it to like a container, right? And like you said, it's difficult for some people to kind of give up space to their partner.
Mhm.
And so it kind of has to be this mutual almost ebb and flow. If you think about two liquids in a container, the container is only so big, and the container is the relationship in essence. But these two liquids have to fit in it. But what I'll see is either one partner wants to take up 90% of the container, right?
Mhm.
And you're not leaving much space for your partner, right? And so it's like, how do we have a more ebb and flow where more times than not, you both feel like you have an equal space within that container. And sometimes knowing that, okay, there might be moments where I'm going to allow my partner to take up a little more space, but I know it's going to ebb and flow back, right, to kind of
Mhm.
our baseline. And so, yeah, it's like, how do we make space for each other? How do we hear and try to understand each other's perspectives? That can be challenging, right? We think that the way we see it is just correct, right?
Mhm.
But how do we see a different perspective, right? And I think giving space to our partner also honors like who they are and yeah, what they're trying to express.
Do you feel that if so besides marriage, do you feel those who get into relationships or those who are engaged or want to build a life with someone, do you think therapy is beneficial for them?
Yeah, and just for single individuals or like pre-marital, you said. No,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely, because it helps. I always have this core question I'm asking, especially my individuals, especially the women I work with. Now, this can be men and women, but especially for women I work with that we just face so much from the outside world. I always ask, "Who are you?" Seems like the most simple question, right? Who are
Hmm.
you? More times than not, a lot of us do not know that answer. What we
Right.
do know is the things we do, right? Well, I'm a therapist, I teach, I'm a why, all these roles that we're in. And I always have to first validate those roles. Those are amazing roles that you're in, right? But who are you to the core, right? Where no one can strip that away. And what I've seen is if we don't really have that awareness or insight into who we are, it gets very difficult to now try to enter a relationship with someone because
Hmm.
instead of having this foundation of who I am first and knowing someone's going to enhance this based off the needs I have, we're a little shaky with the who I am. And now we're looking for that relationship to find that security in
Yeah.
who I am, right? It's like, let me join with this person. And now I feel like, okay, I have a basis of who I am now, which really we don't, right? We just have someone that we feel is going to help us find our way. And that gets tricky.
It almost sounds codependent because I I would say that in a way it's almost like we the foundation of us isn't
Mhm,
solid. Our foundation isn't solid, so we're thinking the other person or getting in this relationship is going to resolve an issue, or make us whole. One thing and I'll say this for myself. Something I've always learned because I've always wanted to be in love. I want love. I'm single. I
mhm,
want love. But before it was always coming from this space of like need, and like I
mhm,
feel that in order for me to feel fulfilled or for me to feel whole, I have to have this other person. And I would have situations come into my life, and it wasn't like from this space of like my foundation was solid. It was it was really like this it was built on shaky ground pretty much
mhm,
because this person is still their own individual self, and they're going to show up in who they are. And I was putting all my expectations and my wants and my ideals into this one being, this one person, this whole human, when
mhm,
I have to be whole within self.
mhm.
There's this movie by what's it called, Jerry Maguire.
Mm,
Jerry
mhm.
Maguire. I think one of the scenes that he tells a woman, "You complete me." I
Mhm.
used to love this as a kid, but I think it's so detrimental now because we should never be in these type of dynamics where this other person completes us fully. We
Mhm.
should be
Mhm.
whole, or we should be working towards wholeness and inviting someone in to experience that with us, not from a space of like, I need this other person to be, I need this other person to exist.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
that breeds shaky, and it could lead to unhealthy
Yeah.
imbalance.
Definitely, definitely.
Hmm.
And one more quick thing too, why some of that individual work is important, just to get some insights. And so, we all come from some type of history, and a lot of us, depending on childhood, even relationships that occurred as we're growing up, a lot of us have certain attachment wounds, right?
Yes.
And so, a lot of us are seeking out consciously. A lot of times it's unconscious though, but we're seeking out certain things in other people that we're maybe not even aware of, right? And you'll
Mhm.
hear a lot of people time and time again, I have the wrong picker, right? What's going on? And it's like, yeah, that can be true to some extent. But really, let's explore some of these attachment wounds that you have. Like, what do you think it is that you're truly looking for in someone? Okay. And that's where some of those wants come in, right? Well, I want to feel this void. I want to feel this void. Instead of really honing on, like, no, what do you actually truly need for yourself? Okay.
Mm.
So that's where that individual work can be helpful, even without a relationship, because you have to be intentional about where you're coming from, what you're going through, and what you need going forward when it comes to being in relationships with
Yes.
others.
I agree completely. I've therapy. I'm an advocate for therapy. I've done it, and it was enlightening to me on my healing journey because exactly what you said, Vanessa. It opened me up to learn about my attachment style, and it also I was able to do a lot more healing as far as inner child work and things
Mhm.
that from my past that was and that was a reflection of what was going on in my relationships or dynamics with men.
Mhm.
And so once I started actually working through a lot of different things, I realized, okay, you've been kind of showing up in this anxious attachment style. You've
Mhm.
been really clingy. You've been all in. And how do we move from that to being in a space of going to secure, of
Mhm.
feeling whole, feeling safe, and also being able to be in a dynamic with someone without there being this for me it was almost like it would make me sick if I didn't think if I like I had to know this person wanted me. I had to be underneath
Mhm.
them, and
Mhm.
now I feel I can breathe. It's different
Mhm.
now, and
Mhm.
that's a byproduct of the therapy and getting that work done. So the solo work is so necessary, and I'm gonna keep imploring that to anyone that's watching or listening later. Doing the work of like self and getting some additional help and
Mhm.
guidance is so needed, especially
Mhm.
if you're current in a relationship or if you're not. It is so needed. It is
Mhm.
so necessary so that we can be able to show up not from our wounds, from the wounded space, but from a more awareness, like being
Mhm.
aware and
Mhm.
conscious.
Mhm. Definitely, yeah.
Hmm.
And a place of value, right? I'll
Oh
see a
yeah.
lot, and that's why I'll ask people, the who are you? And I really try to break down that what we're placing our worth on is things that are tangible and they can come and go. Job titles can come and go. Relationships, unfortunately, come and go. And so,
Mm-hmm.
especially within this society, for women, right? Men don't really deal with this to the high degree from what I experience and see. But women, right, we're socialized and conditioned to be like dating all the time or, right,
Oh
trying to
yeah.
find our mate, right? That's our sole purpose for some reason is to like find a mate and have kids, right?
Yes.
And so we start to believe that and we start to place our value. Like, I'm only worthy if I'm a wife, okay, if I'm in
Mm-hmm.
a relationship. And so I want us to break free from that, right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
a person and we exist outside of our relationships. And so you do not have to attribute your worth to being in a relationship, right? You're worthy with or without it. And that's how we have to start moving and operating.
Yeah, this is on time. This conversation is on time because I was just thinking before I got on this live, I was having a conversation with my girlfriend about, you know, because we're both single, we're in our 30s, and if this was in a different space, like if I wasn't aware, I would feel so much pressure from society. Oh, you're not married, or you don't have children yet, you haven't done these things, because that's the norm, right? That's what society tells us is it makes us valuable. Like you said, it
Mhm.
makes us worthy as women to have a man or to be a mother.
Mhm.
And neglect they don't look at anything else. Or you may be, having running your own business, you may be very much living the life that you want, but you are something's wrong with you because you
Mhm.
don't have this. You
Mhm.
don't have this yet. And a lot of women feel this way. We feel the pressure. We feel the the idea that like something's missing or
Mhm.
we're not enough because we don't have a man. And that is so not true. It's just
Mhm.
not true. And something I'm really have been learning for myself is that my worth, regardless if someone's in my life or not, like I'm enough. I'm
Mhm.
completely enough. And if that happens for me, I hope so if it comes into my life. But regardless, in this moment, as I am, is enough. Regardless of what anyone else says, what
Mhm.
in what their projections that they're putting on me or they're trying to place on me, it's not real. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to accept it. So that was on time. Anybody that's single that is doesn't have children or man yet, or you're in your 30s, your value is not lessened because of the circumstances that you're currently because you don't have a man. You look at everything else that you're doing for yourself, that you're showing up for yourself, that you're able even to work for
Mhm.
yourself and take care of yourself, to be healthy, to be able to
Mhm.
be living and breathing. Like that's in itself an amazing thing. So we got to look at the positives and stop looking at everything that we don't have or what society says we should have as a
Mhm.
negative. It's not a
Mhm.
negative. No, because, and also I want to say, because think about it, if you have a person in your life or you have a family, those kids grow up. Your husband could leave you, or the
Mhm.
relationship may end. At the end of the day, you are still left with you. It's just you in this world. It's really just
Mhm.
you. So you have to you got to be able to be okay with you,
Yeah,
regardless about
absolutely.
those other things.
Absolutely. Yes.
Hmm.
Good.
That was good, girl. Thank you. Because I because I was look. I'm like this conversation on time. I legit was just having this conversation because I just there's so much pressure I feel, and it is upon women more than men. I think
Mhm.
because men can have children to their 70s, but women feel this idea that they have to live this life, this certain
Mhm.
lifestyle, and if they don't have this, then they're incomplete or
Mhm.
something's wrong with them. And
Mhm.
society will tell you. And so it's just not true. It's a bunch of baloney. It's a bunch of
Mhm.
hogwash, BS,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So yes, I think this has been a good conversation. I've enjoyed it.
Yes.
I wonder if there's anything that you can impart to women or men or anyone who need assistance or who are on the fence of getting help. Why
Mhm.
would it be? I know we've talked about why would it be beneficial, but what would you impart to them of, you know, I'm trying to see the right way I want to say this. What would you say to them to recognize maybe why they would need to go ahead and get some assistance? Because sometimes, like you said earlier, we don't even think that we need anything, or we don't know.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, we can never get enough of trying to step into some type of growth, right? Even when we think we have it all figured out, which usually is never right. It's rare if we have it all figured out. It helps to feel that we're getting some insight, some growth, right? Having to have someone where you can just bounce things off of, right? And so that's on a I guess on a lighter note, right? I'll get a lot of clients that come in, doing pretty well, adjusting well, and it's just, having a space to bounce things off of, share certain things, unbiased opinion, right? Thinking that you have some friends, a good support system for that, That could be true. You might have an amazing support system, but I always say that our support system and friend, it's a little different, right? You really need people that are going to be non-biased and not tell you what you want to hear, but tell you
Yeah.
some things you need to hear and provide some insight. Okay, and so that's kind of where therapy can come in. And when we think about healing, and so really having to ask yourself the question of, do I need continued healing? Okay, have I even addressed and acknowledged some things that I've gone through in childhood, that I've gone through in my early adult years, that I'm currently going through now? All right.
Mhm.
Because there's a difference between healing and really just that thought of like, yeah, that happened. It's fine. It's not impacting me. Okay. Well, it's like, well, how do we know? Because your interactions with others might say differently, right? Your communication within your relationship might say different. And so really feeling like you can get true healing, because when you're able to work through some difficult things, some difficult feelings, that's when we can tap into kind of that authenticity we were speaking
Mhm.
about earlier, right? It's
Mhm.
very difficult to truly live this authentic life if
Mhm.
there's just things that we haven't addressed yet.
Correct.
Right. And so it's always helpful to at least give it a try. But I will say, therapy is helpful when you try to make the most of it, when you do a lot of the work that it entails. It's really not just like you come see me for a week and then you go home and then you come back next week. It's like, no, you come see me for a week. Here's some things for you to do or think about until next time. Then you're going to come tell me about it. We'll discuss. It's like this back and forth thing, right? But a lot of the work happens actually outside of the therapy room. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you're able to actually put in that time and intention to do the work, but then lastly and most important, you have to find a good fit. So I've unfortunately heard countless stories where people take that vulnerable step, and it's unfortunate because it's a hard step to make where it's like, okay, I'm stepping out and finding this therapist, and for some reason it's just a horrible experience, and so then it's thought that like this is what therapy looks like, where it's really not. Okay, you happen to
Mhm.
just find a therapist that wasn't a good fit for you, and so I can't say it enough and encourage people to really find the right fit for you. And if that's maybe going to a couple other therapists, that's fine, but finding the right fit will be the most beneficial for you.
I agree. I agree. The find the right therapist is absolutely important.
Hmm.
Important, finding who resonates with you, who speaks with you, who you feel that you can be your true self with, and because this is your time to really for your self development and for your growth. And so you want to make sure that you can show up in all that you are so that you can get the best that you can.
Hmm.
I will say a long time ago when I thought about doing therapy, because I didn't feel comfortable, I lied to the lady about everything. Like I just was lying. And she was giving me advice, but I mean, it wasn't helping me because I was lying. So it didn't do anything for me, and I just kept coming back. But she was lying. I mean, I not she was lying. I was lying, so
Yeah.
it didn't do anything. It just was not helpful. But one but once I like later on when I went back to therapy.
Mhm.
I made sure it was a good fit, and then I also was just honest. I felt completely safe to
Mhm.
be completely honest, and because I was completely honest, I was able to get the things I needed for my betterment, for my growth.
Mhm.
So you're absolutely right, Vanessa. Thank you. And I want to say this has been amazing as far as the conversation. If anyone wants to contact you or follow you, how can they get in touch? I do have the IG link, your IG here listed. But if anyone wants to, is there any way else they can get connected with you?
Yeah, yes, that's my IG. You can probably type in that same handle, Dr. Vernessa Roberts for if you're on Facebook. And then my website is www.drvernessaroberts.com. And yeah, and so I'm in California. So if it's like therapy type services that you're seeking, individual or couples, that's going to be for anyone within the state of California. But that's why I've started implementing couples, because that can kind of be this worldwide reach. But specifically, since we were talking about couples, and so individual, I do a lot of coaching just on like authenticity, right? And so if you're dealing with some of those barriers or struggles, that can be really great for the individual coping. But then the relational couple, I like the program I have. I mean, I guess I'm biased, but I like the program I have because there's actually an assessment that I put with that. And so it's not even like having to deep dive into a lot of things. If people are really just into like a solution focused approach and breakdown of their relationship, there's an assessment that I do, and you'll do it individually. I get the results of it, and it's just like this thorough breakdown of like how your relationship is operating when it comes to like, it's about like 10 to 12 really important pieces that we don't discuss a lot. And so it's like conflict resolution, parenting styles, spiritual beliefs, friends and family, character traits, habits. It's all these different breakdowns of the relationship, and it shows you what your strength areas are, which that's always good to highlight. But then it shows you what some of your growth areas can be, and that's will be the focus of some of our work. So if you want something that's more specific, the assessment's really great also.
I love it. Please connect with her, get on her website, or also you can go to IG, follow her. Make sure you plug in, especially I know she's based in California, but if you're insurance or if you don't, if you don't have insurance, maybe you need to plug in and still see if this is a good fit for you. Because if you're in a single or in a relationship, or you're struggling with self-worth, self-value, knowing what you need, this is an outlet. This is a tool to really get you to a place probably where you want to desire, where you desire to be. So plug in. The resources here. Plug in. Plug in, please. I've enjoyed this conversation so much, Vanessa. I do want to thank you just for being a part of podcast, sharing your beautiful energy and your loving knowledge. It's been so amazing. So thank you.
Thank you. I enjoyed it too. I love all these topics. We could talk and talk for days, I'm sure. So
Girl, we can talk for days because I have many things to say, especially I'm gonna be quiet. Because I have things to say about couples, about men, but I'm gonna leave that alone. Uh, but I will say to the watchers or to the listeners, this has been a great podcast so far. Make sure you plug in and follow Vernessa, and also just so you're aware, I always say that what you want wants you to, but this
mm,
is just giving you tools and resources that you can plug into the truth of who you are and what you desire.
mm,
And that if you want things to shift for you, it can, but it starts with you. So you have to do something different than what you're currently doing
mm,
to begin the shift, to see the shift in your real life. And everyone that comes on here, myself included, we've all had to do shifts within our own life to be in this space to talk to you about these things. So if we can do it, you can too. Plug into the resources that are available to you, because we all deserve to feel happy and good within. Okay, we deserve those good things. That's what we deserve. So that's what I'm gonna leave y'all with tonight, today.
mm.
And I will see you guys soon. Thank you once again, Vanessa, and
Of course.
everyone have a great day. Peace out.
Bye.